My name is Craig Broccoli. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for Binghamton University. I'm based in New York City most of the time. I'm here regionally for Binghamton, but been working with our admissions office for the last 9 years now. Prior to that, I will say I have a lot of Binghamton pride. I studied at Binghamton University as a student in our mechanical engineering program and for grad school in our MBA track. I'm joined by my colleague, Carrie.
Hi everybody, my name is Carrie Feyerabend. I'm relatively new to admissions, but not to Binghamton. I'm a Binghamton alum, a Binghamton graduate, and I work with our international students, but we all kind of help out as best we can in the admissions world. And we're really excited to be with you all. This is something that I think is really unique, and actually Craig and I can attest as a little taste of a preview that we've both just taken a small introductory to coding course that Binghamton offers, and this is really going to expand on that. So we're really excited everyone's here today, and we can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Hey, Carrie, you want to share screens and we'll show everybody a little bit of what we're going to get into today, and then we'll introduce our two special guests. So as we jump ahead, I know a lot of you are curious about what Binghamton has to offer, and that's certainly a good starting point. There's many programs here at Binghamton, but in particular tonight, we're going to highlight a program called Binghamton Codes, as well as our Innovation Scholars program. Both are relatively new here at Binghamton, but really speak to the culture that has been developing over the young history of Binghamton. But we're at a pretty high point right now, this ever-growing rocket ship of Binghamton reputation. And I want to touch on a lot of that towards the end today. So I want to switch gears and pass it over to two of our guests. We have Amy and James. I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves. I know you have a lot of insight of how the Binghamton culture has been shifting over the years, but we want to really highlight these programs. So how about you both take it away?
Awesome. So my name's Amy Gay. I'm a faculty librarian at Binghamton. My actual title is Digital Scholarship Librarian, which means that I basically help faculty and students learn how to integrate technologies and different types of digital tools into their research and teaching. So we've had some really great digital humanities projects come out of it for students and faculty wanting to work on it more in their research. And then James brought me on board as lead instructor and director for the Binghamton Codes program as well.
And hi, I'm James Essie. It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm coming at you live from my attic studio. So as Amy said, she and I have been working together on a really cool project called Binghamton Codes. And in a minute, Amy and I will talk a little bit about that. I'm a faculty member in mechanical engineering, and I also serve as vice provost here. So I serve in the administration as well. And I have a pretty interesting perspective. I've been here for a little over 32 years, and I've really seen Binghamton University grow. I've seen the community that's Binghamton University grow. And I'm going to be talking later on about our innovation program, which I'm really excited about. And hopefully some of you will be interested in it and ask some questions later on. But, you know, where Amy and I sort of intersect is in a really interesting project. We call it Binghamton Codes, but it was brought to us by an alum who was interested in helping students who otherwise maybe wouldn't be interested in computing learn how to go ahead and code. And so I had heard about Amy's amazing teaching that she does in the digital humanities using coding. And I approached her and said, would you like to try this great project of teaching students who typically they're not computer science majors, how to code? And of course, Amy said, yeah, I'm in. So Amy, you want to talk a little bit about the class you developed and teach?
Yeah, so the first class actually just took place this past spring, and we have a part 2 coming along in the fall. So taking a step back with it as well, James, one thing James really liked was that I don't come from a computer science background or anything like that. I come from a humanities background. And I also learned this as an adult after my years in schooling. So for me, coding was something that I learned after my programs and just came on board and really got into it. And I love just being a part of this. So one thing we wanted to do is to be able to offer this type of course to students who are non-programmers and also students who may be a little bit more hesitant with using technology or computers and breaking materials down. I know coming from my background, when I first tried coding, it was intimidating. So I could come at it from that approach, that I could see it being a little more intimidating for some people. And we put together this 4-credit course. It was a pilot this past spring that had both a lecture and lab section. And in the lab section, we focused on hands-on learning. You looking at some of the foundational skills, including how to, for students to be able to both read and write code using some different approaches between functions and variables, and coming at it from an object-oriented programming perspective. And then also they worked on debugging code, which can be one of the most frustrating parts of it all. So we just wanted to give them a little bit of a taste of it. And our goal is that, you know, not to be at the developer level, but to be more comfortable with working with programming languages and coding, and see how it can be applied to what they're currently working on as well. We had students from all different majors this past semester, environmental sciences, mathematics, biology. I had some English majors, human development majors, economics majors, political science majors. It was, you know, just all across the board. And you know, a lot of people told me at the start of the semester the reason they wanted to take this was because they're looking at internships right now, and a lot of internships, even in their fields, are asking for you to have a little bit more experience with coding and programming, and not so much at a developer level, but just be able to understand it and comprehend this new type of language to them, and be comfortable around it. And for their final projects, they're actually working on building games or creating a ratings app, or working with an open data set that then they can either visualize or analyze. And some of them have already been talking about their projects, so I'm really excited to see what they look like next week. But yeah, overall, it's been, you know, a great semester. The students have been an integral part of helping us build, and throughout the semester, the course has evolved in itself. After each lab, we have them offer us feedback through exit tickets to see, you know, what worked and what could we improve for future labs, and also for when we want to offer this in future semesters. Right now, we only, since it's a pilot, we only had one section of it, but we plan to scale it out to have more sections. So how can we make that work? And one big thing with the course too is that all the materials are open educational resources, which means that everything is freely accessible. Between the textbook we use and a lot of the additional materials that they learned outside of the class to continue building their skills. And I had some great course assistants as well, who were part of the Girls Who Code Club, and they were an integral part of this team. I am so thankful that they were willing to join us. James met them at a tabling event of some sort, and brought them on board, and they were so great to have. And then so this fall, we're offering the part 2 of this course, where students will be able to apply what they've learned and build on it to do more real-life projects and problem solving. We'll be working with web scraping and APIs and web development, do some more work with data, and, you know, let them really apply this to their own fields, give them a little bit more freedom to do so, work with independent projects and on teams together. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of it after we pilot the second half. James, I don't know if I missed anything in my ramble.
Go ahead.
No, that was great. Actually, that just sparked us to think. If anybody could just raise their hand under raise the hand tool, if you have no experience with coding, I would love to see that. No matter what stage you're at, look at that. See, ooh, there it goes. And I assume some of you have a little background, which is great too. I know this is more or less capturing a lot of our creative minds here, and that is what the point is of this program. I wish this was there when I was a student and I studied in the engineering school. Granted, we got our own rights within that to learn how to program a bit and code. This is an amazing feature, and I think this is something where Binghamton really steps up. Sorry for cutting you off, James.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. What I was going to add to what Amy said is really important. What we're hearing from employers is that, yes, there are employers hiring computer science graduates. I get that. there are a lot of employers looking for a broad range of skills outside of computer science, but if you have some knowledge of coding, and in our case, Python, that's really a skill set that can take any degree and add value to it. And that's really what drove the alum who helped fund this project. He had seen for himself in industry, and by the way, he happens to work for Google, and he had noticed that there a lot of people applying for non-coding jobs had no coding experience, and at a big company like Google or Microsoft or Apple or any of these kind of companies, it helps to have some knowledge. But beyond the technical fields, I mean, Amy does research in the field called digital humanities, which is, taking what we normally would consider, the arts and humanities side of things and using this powerful tool to aid in the analysis. It could be, with data or analyzing texts and comparing them to other texts, a whole variety of things. And so, that's really the genesis of the project. We're super excited by it. As Amy pointed out, it's hands-on. They're in the lab, right, Amy? We have incredible course assistants from the Girls Who Code Club. They come in and really help the students. So, and what we've done and what Amy has done in that class is absolutely amazing. And the students, I went to the first class and I said, okay, raise your hand if you're nervous about computing. Everybody raised their hand. And here we are almost done with the semester, and they're reading and writing code that solves interesting problems. So that's the kind of fun and excitement that Amy brings to the classroom. Amy, did you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, just I know I got so deep into the labs, I forgot we have lectures too. So another thing we've been doing, I have been having them do discussion posts, especially since it's the first cohort of this, getting a feel of how they're progressing throughout the semester, and just ideas of what they'd like to learn a little bit more about. And that's what we made the lectures so that they could be flexible, so we could bring in guest speakers, and we brought in a few guest speakers. Sorry, my cat.
Is that one of your guest speakers?
Yeah,
one of the guest speakers.
We brought in a few guest lecturers who are currently working with coding in their job, but they weren't necessarily computer science engineering or doing any type of coding at all when they were in college. They just learned this on the job and came out of different humanities programs, and it was really insightful for these students that we have to hear this from our guest speakers, and empowering to see that people can transition from different jobs. And we brought in a couple speakers from Google as well in modern marketing concepts. And we build it based on what they're interested in hearing about with Python, and not just Python, just programming in general. So we looked at internships that are out there in their fields, and we looked at jobs, and we looked at real world scenarios where people are using programming, and also when is Python not the right choice. We've looked at that a little bit too, and it's been really great to just see how they've evolved. And one of my greatest moments, and I'll close with this too, is on a discussion post recently. We've been learning about all these foundational skills, and doing just some intro stuff here and there, and just like the basics of it. And so we kind of had that I'm going to date myself here, with a little Karate Kid moment with Mr. Miyagi, where it was, okay, so look at these real projects and see what the code is behind it. And I got a lot of, wow, like we already understand this, we know this is so simple yet so complex. And it was like, yeah, that was a great moment. And that was probably one of my favorite moments this semester.
So you can see why I love working with Amy. I mean, she's enthusiastic, smart, a faculty librarian. So her entire area of expertise, and yet has this other dimension with the coding. And Craig, I'm with you. I wish I had Professor Amy when I was a student learning coding. Would have been a lot easier, I think. So, I mean, that's just tremendous. And, one of the goals of that course is Amy mentioned this, we want to scale this up. Our vision is that any student at Binghamton who wants to learn Python coding we want to give them that opportunity. And we understand computer science, you're going to learn all kinds of in-depth things. This is for students who want to understand it, want to be able to not feel intimidated by it, be able to read and write code. And so as time goes on, we really hope to make this available to any student. And I think that's what, part of that curiosity thing. We want to give you the tools to really explore your curiosity. We look at the world around us and what's driving it, what's beneath it, what are the tools you need to be successful in that world. We know a Binghamton degree has a lot of value. If we can add something even extra to that, it'll be tremendous. And so can I talk a little bit about the innovation program now? All right, so kind of perfect segue here. A couple of years ago, a colleague of mine Upinder Dhillon, who is the dean of the School of Management here on campus, he and I got talking, and we realized, as an engineer, and he's in business, that a lot of the material we're teaching, it's good stuff, it's important, but what was missing was really giving our students a tool set for solving, open-ended, ill-defined problems, wicked hard problems, right? In other words, real-world problems. And we said, let's put together a course where we teach a set of skills, right, to students who really want to, jump in, don't be afraid to fail. Let's learn how to use these tools, these mindsets to tackle really hard problems. So we started something called the Innovation Scholars, and it starts in the second year. So Amy's Python course starts in you can take that in your first year, second semester, first year. This Innovation Scholars program starts first semester, your second year. And what we do in there, if you said, James, simply, what is the Innovation Scholars course? What is that all about? It's this. It's increasing your creative confidence. And I know I can't draw or sketch. I have no artistic ability. And so I used to think I wasn't creative. And then I had taken some adult learning courses, and I worked with some really interesting people from business and industry. And I learned that I am a creative person once I had a tool set. So we're super excited to build a course. This is going to be our third year in the course coming up, where we teach these skills: design thinking, human-centered design, jobs to be done theory. There are a bunch of, we call them lenses, to look at difficult problems. It is a very hands-on course. It's all in teams. The students, I do silly things at the beginning of every class where we do like a warm-up exercise. Recently, before we had to go to remote teaching, our warm-up exercise was a rock, paper, scissors contest. And so, it was just fun, silly stuff. But I do it with a purpose, because that innovation class is unlike any other class. And by starting with something silly like that, it really signals this isn't like your regular class. This is going to be different. The students have gone on to tackle some interesting problems. We've used the UN Sustainable Development Goals as one set of problems that students try to tackle. We've had, one of my students has gone on, and this will be probably mentioned later on, has gone on and started a business, and he's in our incubator downtown. And so he's come back and talked to the Innovation Scholars. Most recently, and of course, with this very difficult situation we're all facing, a couple of weeks ago, we tried to tackle the problem of ventilator design. And so the long and short of it is, one of the Innovation Scholars said, I think I can build a simple ventilator in my dorm room over the weekend. And he did. On Monday, after our Friday class, he sent me a video, and by picking up some simple parts from Walmart and some hands-on experience he built a functioning ventilator. And he credits the creative confidence he has to just tackle a problem with fresh eyes. And it's really exciting to see. So that's a course that hopefully you'll be interested in. You'll join us in that. What's fun about that, again, is we have a lot of alumni who are supporting it. So we've taken the students down to Ernst & Young or PwC or SAP down in Manhattan to meet people in their innovation centers and hear about how innovation is being used in practice. So you know, we kind of bookended this with two very interesting value-added aspects of the Binghamton culture. One is this coding, really designed for non-coding experts, and then the other is this innovation course. And by the way, this is typically taught at the graduate level. So to teach this in your second year, to give you a set of tools for tackling wicked hard problems, is part of, you know, what we get excited about when we think about Binghamton Curious. This is the culture we have here. This is what we try to do. And hopefully you're interested and excited by that, want to join in, and maybe you'll go out and invent something, and you know, you'll be the next TikTok or you know, Instagram or whatever. So so that's my pitch. You know, Amy or anybody, anything else?
Yeah, no, I think we're getting some wonderful questions, and I do want to touch on those in just a second. If you give me a moment, I'm going to share my screen because I actually have some photos of the things you're talking about, James, and I want to bring that up. So just give me one moment. Yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Sure. So in these photos, the first photo and the second photo, this is our classroom that we're using, and you can see that we're taking full advantage of the windows. So the students went and did some really cool brainstorming techniques and some affinity mapping. We do some lightning rounds where I give them 1 minute to come up with ideas. So there's no time to think. You just have to put your ideas down. Then we arrange them, we vote on them. So you can see some of the posters up on the wall where they've kind of worked through some ideas, and they're working on a pitch, a presentation. So we worked on presentation skills and pitching skills, and then we had a contest. So here's another team, and they're working on the wall. By the way, all the walls in this room, whether they're glass or the plasterboard, are you can write on them and erase it. So the students write all over the walls and use that as their ThinkPad. My colleague is there, Upinder Dhillon from the School of Management. So this is a group of students that had just completed one of our big projects. And there is Jacob with his ventilator. So yeah, an undergraduate student in a weekend in his dorm with parts from Walmart built a functioning generator. And let me point out the mechanism. You can see the dark gears there. That mechanism has not been used on a ventilator before. And so we are actually talking with our technology transfer office, and we're potentially going to pursue a patent on that. The next step is how can we take that and make it a very robust design that could be used in countries that maybe don't have the medical infrastructure that we have. So that's going to be a huge challenge for the team for next year. But it's an exciting project. I basically give the students a set of tools and get out of the way, and they never cease to amaze me.
That's incredibly impressive. And I know he's gotten a lot of good press lately, which is quite fitting when you do something like this, when you actually take that mindset that we're helping you curate while you're at Binghamton and develop with other students. Certainly, I want to point out with that collaborative style that is, yes, it's innate to the Binghamton style, but you really see that highlighted there. I think you would agree, James, with the way the students are coming together from different backgrounds, different mindsets, different degree paths, and really sharing that knowledge. But you have opportunities to keep advancing that. And I like that you pointed out even on that tech transfer side. I mean, Binghamton, regarded as the #1 public university in New York. We're an R1 research institution. There's a lot of faith in the Binghamton University sort of mindset that we can solve some of these bigger problems, whether it's the state of New York investing in Binghamton, whether it's federal government, whether it's private industry, seeing what Binghamton as a university can churn out from our collective, our students, undergrad and graduates, well as our faculty. We have a very strong tech transfer office, but that overlaps into our entrepreneurship and innovation partnership side, which I did want to show some photos because actually relatively recently, over the past few years, we put into place sort of the capstone of all these ideas, or an opportunity where you have an incubator, a $19 million incubator in the city of Binghamton, in partnership with, yes, of course, Binghamton University, the state of New York, SUNY Broome, which is right down the road. A lot of great resources were invested here, where we have now a facility at the highest level now, where you can take what we're learning and developing on campus with community partners. 50 plus different companies are part of here from all over the world, actually looking to now relocate to Binghamton, because we have not only the students who can bring on a skill set there, but also the infrastructure in place where innovation can continue to grow. And this is actually now more so pointing in the direction that Binghamton has been going. And yes, a lot of this is new. This is more so indicating, I guess, that rocket ship rise, that we're still going. And this facility, the Kauffman Center in downtown Binghamton, is another opportunity our students have. And I know we're talked about only just two of the many things that make Binghamton unique here, but this is one of those good melting pot opportunities where you can bring all these bright minds together. And I did want to show some footage of the center. And I know I promised that we're going to get to some of your questions, and we're trying to be efficient with time. We could talk for hours on this. As you can see, this is just a prelude, an introduction for all of you. So I'm going to stop sharing screen for a second so everybody comes up and you can see all of our faces clear again. And I know, Carrie, you've seen some photos come through, both for coding and I think innovation scholars. So you want to touch on some of those, Carrie?
Yeah, so my first question is going to be for Amy. We've got some questions coming in about this coding class, and I'd be one of those people to ask kind of this kind of question. I came from a liberal arts background, did zero coding experience. So if it's recommended for those who may not be following a track such as computer engineering, but just as a way to inform and expose to a new skill, would it qualify for a general education or elective credit? And how does that part of the course work?
It is a 4-credit course, so you do get the course credit for it. And yeah, I mean, coming from any type of background like that is perfect. You know, this is for more of those types of students who, you know, won't be getting that large amount of exposure in their programs to it. And we do break down the materials in a way, so far from what we've seen, have been working well with the students we have so far.
Can I jump in on that as well? Yeah, and
Yes,
so
please.
for the first time we've taught it, and you can imagine, you know, we're developing the material and so on and so forth, and having students with no coding background whatsoever. So we did not pursue a Gen Ed designation this time. However, for the next version, we will be, you know, in the next year, we're going to get a Gen Ed designation. We're just trying to pick which Gen Ed is it. Certainly, if they're going to be doing oral presentations, we might go there. It's definitely sort of a mathematics-oriented, logic-oriented, so we could go for a Gen Ed there. So Amy and I will sit down after this semester is over and kind of think it through, and then talk to the committee and help decide which Gen Ed. So yes, it'll count as an elective in almost any curriculum. And yes, we are going to have a Gen Ed designation on it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And kind of a follow-up to this, and again, from someone with zero background, do you need any kind of background before taking the course?
Nope. A lot of the students that came into this class didn't have a background. We had a few who said, you know, oh, I tried it for a little bit in this class, or, you know, I tried to learn it on my own and just wasn't working. I need to be forced to get a grade to be able to really work through this. And you know, and that's what's been great about this first cohort too, since we've been developing it, and you know, we made them aware on day one that this will be evolving. Their feedback in those exit tickets are very helpful for me, because I can learn, you know, what worked well, what was unclear that I need to develop better for the next cohorts that come through. I will say I do have a very honest group, and I love it. They've been very helpful along this whole way.
Great. So the next question we have is about kind of the nature of the course and how it functions. So how time intensive is the course outside of the classroom for, you know, studying, homework? You mentioned there's a lot of hands-on. So what does that look like in a day-to-day for the student?
You know, it'll really depend. It depends on what you want to do with the coding. So we work through the labs in the lab. If you finish it, you can submit it there. So then that doesn't carry on, but we do have practice assignments that go on after to continue building on those skills. We have regular assignments where, you know, you practice what you've learned in the labs, and you can revert back to your labs as to help you get through them. The big one that they have right now is that final project. That's probably the biggest thing that they've had through it. We were having a quiz in person, but when we went virtual, I switched those over and just added a couple extra assignments for them. But you know, some students have done just getting through the work that we do, which is fine. That's what the course is meant for. And then we have other students who, you know, over their breaks, they're emailing me and they're taking off with it and doing, you know, more complex things than what we were even looking at in the course, which is really cool. So, you know, it is what you make of it, really. That's one great thing about learning a skill like this, is that there's so many other resources out there to continue building on, and it's up to you how intensive you want to make it.
Great. So maybe let's go into a little bit more particular. Outside of the kind of engineering realm, we have a student asking if it would be helpful for a chem major, but maybe we can broaden out. How is it helpful in, you know, a pre-health field or a bio field? You know, what are some of those applications?
Yeah. So I'll use some of our students for example. We have quite a few environmental science students, and we have some HR students, management students, and a lot of them are looking at ways to run things more efficiently. One person in particular is interested in getting into human resources, and she wants to use the code to create a more efficient way of running through the application process and onboarding processes. And that's one nice thing about writing codes, that you can figure out ways to make things more efficient and find gaps and problems within your field that maybe you could build some type of application for. You know, sciences are a big one now. A lot of the ones that came in from the sciences said that the internships they're looking at are just asking them to at least understand it, because they have developers writing code that works, that will be involved with some of the materials that they will also be working in the research. And James, I don't know if you've heard from students before I got on board.
What I wanted to do, though, is touch upon an aspect of that question that I think is you mentioned, and that is, in many situations, the person who takes Amy's class, they're not going to be an expert in coding, but they're going to understand it. And there may be experts that in your internship or when you get a job, they're going to be the coders, but you can speak the language. And you know, we have a saying here that coding is the new alchemy. So if you at least understand how it works, then you can converse with the experts who are going to develop that app. And that's very, very powerful. But certainly, you know, the students I've talked to, again, come from a broad background. They can do everything, or they're doing things that, you know, range from just, like I said, just understanding coding to actually writing small codes and being able to do, you know, simple little things with it. And certainly for internships, we're seeing a huge demand for some knowledge in this field. So we're really hoping to expand this program.
Yeah, and if I could just add on this, just the way the world is evolving, right? There's a need and a desire for data, and you could also see the demand in data scientist type opportunities. This is not designed to make you a data scientist. Maybe it does spark that interest, but somebody, all of us, we all need to be able to communicate with the data scientists on our team, whatever that might be. Maybe we're a medical doctor, and that's part of the discussion you're having on a daily basis to understand the trends of the industry. This introduction here teaches you the power of things like Python, right? And then the opportunity for you to kind of rise and ride that wave a bit further than maybe some of your peers who just didn't take that leap. And I know we bring in some talented students every year. There was a question about what we look for academically here at Binghamton. And that's a session on itself, but we certainly attract some of the best and brightest, not just from here in the New York area, but 100+ countries, all 50 states. I will argue best and brightest amongst many of our public and private peers, but there's a different edge to the Binghamton student. And Carrie and I, we talk about this all the time after going through the experience here. There's a brightness, but there's a collaborative style that kind of dials down on the competitiveness, and everybody kind of wants to work together. They want to develop those skill sets together. This idea of an innovation scholars program speaks to the core of like a true Binghamton student. Is every student going to be in an innovation scholars program? No. And frankly, James, I know you want to shed some light on it. There's other paths where you can follow these sort of exceptional areas of expertise. But there are some students who had some questions. So I want to ask you a few questions on the innovation scholar side.
Craig, I just wanted to jump in for a moment. What you were talking about, and James, what you were talking about too, in that culture of collaboration. You know, there are a lot of schools out there that are more competitive. And I think, James, you hit it on the head when you mentioned how the Innovation Scholars Program, it makes students confident in their curiosity and confident in their ability to be curious. And I think that's really what helps enhance that collaborative mindset and that goal that we have at Binghamton, where students, instead of competing to be the best, they're working together to be the best. And I think that's what really makes Binghamton unique, and part of what this Innovation Scholars Program does is bring those students together in a collaborative way instead of in a competitive spirit where, you know, students are always trying to one up each other, which I think is really unique about Binghamton as well.
I agree. And I think, you know, to echo what Craig was saying, curiosity's in our DNA. I think one of the things that makes, you know, Binghamton students special, yes, you know, smart, you know, bright students, but curious. And I think the faculty instructors are curious. I mean, Amy's a great example. I mean, a faculty librarian curious about learning more and applying these tools in a totally, you know, different way. You know, hungry to learn new things. So yeah, curiosity's in our DNA, and we're trying to make learning opportunities as available as possible to feed that curiosity. Craig, you said though you did have a question for me.
Yeah, there's a couple questions that I think speak specifically to the Innovation Scholars Program, and it comes up often, but like, what is the true class size here, and is there a limit to that class size?
Yeah, so great question. My goal, very similar to what Amy's doing with coding, is there's a set of skills, a tool set, if you will, that I would love for every Binghamton student to get exposed to. And we realize not everyone is going to have the time or the place in their schedule to take the innovation sequence, you know, second year, fall and spring. And I understand that. As we're getting off the ground, so this is coming up on our third year, the course size, it's limited to, I think, about 35 or 40 students. But what we're doing with the students who have taken it last year and the year before, they're sort of our innovation ambassadors. And my vision is to run sort of workshops that those students can run to teach some of these skills, right? To build the creative confidence. And what's really cool about it is, you know, you could just take a couple of workshops in the evening and get the sense of how to do this. It's really leveraging what's the best of all of us, which is collaborating, being open-minded, and brainstorming. And what we do is give a framework for doing that. So yeah, the actual class size is limited at this time. But like all things, we're growing it. And when we really figure out how to do it, we will absolutely expand it. So yeah, so come on, join us. I'd love to have you in the class.
So which gets to a granular question, and you might not have the answer to that. That's okay. But is there a GPA requirement to be an innovation scholar? Yeah,
so there's no hard requirement. Here's what I tell students is that the class, there are students who really get into the class and put a lot of time into it, and I don't want this class to take away from your major, right? So what I tell students all the time, if you're struggling with your GPA and then you're really into this and you're going to put a ton of time into this and not pay attention to your core courses, I'm not doing you a favor by having you in the class, because you know you need to graduate, you need to do well. So there's no hard GPA requirement, but I do personally interview every student who wants to be in it. Students apply, it's permission of instructor, and we have a conversation about that. So I want to make sure that students are successful.
That's some good advice and a good professor tone speaking there. I like that. That's perfect. I mean, this is the type of interaction you get to actually have with our faculty. And this makes me think about this from maybe a commonplace that as a high school student, you might be bouncing around in your mind. Binghamton is an R1 research school. We're a fairly large institution. Technically, we are still a mid-sized school, 14,000 undergrads, type of place you're never going to run out of people to meet. As mentioned, a lot of different people to meet, and that's part of the magic of going to a place like Binghamton. We've risen into this larger research entity, and I know you've been here for quite a bit, James. How do you think that's influenced, one, where we've come from and where this program has come from, and maybe where do you think we're headed?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, because Binghamton, always attracted students that were curious, faculty that were curious. It's really grown over the 3+ decades I've been here. I'm very proud to be at an R1 institution. What's exciting about Binghamton being mid-size is that we're an R1 institution where the faculty who are driven by that curiosity are teaching the courses. So my colleague, and I'm so proud of him, my colleague, Stan Whittingham, this past December was awarded the Nobel Prize. And he and I have been working on projects together for years. Stan still teaches courses. I mean, up until a few years ago, he was teaching Introduction to Chemistry, and he invented the lithium-ion battery. I mean, and so I think that's what that research, that curiosity on the part of the faculty, the instructors, Amy's curiosity, as a faculty librarian, it drives what we do. And I know it sounds corny, like a tagline, like the curiosity's in our DNA, but it's true. And so what I love about Binghamton is that the instructors you have are involved in creating new knowledge and information, are exploring new ideas, and you get to sit in class and ask questions and interact with them. In the innovation class, we're challenging you to take it even further.
Oh, that was...
I just wanted to jump on that too. You mentioned Stan. I think one of the neat things is the approachability of our faculty members, and how you can work with them on a name by name basis, even at the undergraduate level. And I just want to let everyone know, as kind of an early plug, that actually, we reached out to Stan. We said, we're doing a faculty series. Would you mind talking about your research and where it's going? And he said, sure. What time? So we'll actually be having him on next week, and that's just, all of our faculty have been so great about just helping to reach out and connect with students where they're at. And that's something that's really, really unique to Binghamton. I think that not every school can boast. And maybe it's partially because we are that, smaller, mid-sized campus where we have an intimacy still, where you can connect with those professors. You're not getting lost in a sea of faces. And I think that just makes it really special.
True.
Yeah, anything that Amy, James, you'd like to add? I have one last remark I do want to make, and I know, Carrie, you want to plug some of our upcoming events.
Yeah. No, I first of all, thank you to everyone. I know, these are difficult days, and so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here today. I hope you're all safe and healthy, and I hope to see many of you here if you're looking at Binghamton. I would just say, we've got students developing apps, students solving interesting problems both on the campus as well as the larger community. And, I get excited every day. I was going to say coming to work. Now I sit in my home office, but I'm excited every day, whether it's working with Amy on how to make the class better or trying to figure out interesting challenges for the students. My own research right now is aimed at teaching and learning and how we can do a better job at that. So I love Binghamton. It's a place where it's fed my curiosity for 3+ decades. And I think the students resonate with that. And that's why our graduates go on to really awesome, careers. And we have two great examples right here in Carrie and Craig.
Thank you. No, that's part of the sentiment I do want us all to kind of rally around. And I know we introduced, again, two unique aspects of Binghamton, of the long list of unique aspects. And maybe just to plant the seed, especially those curious minds out there, particularly if you like that smaller, more intimate setting, again, within a mid-sized school. A lot of this starts with our residential life at Binghamton. We have these small communities that you are a part of when you're a student. There are many little villages scattered around campus where you build those connections. But inside those communities are these learning communities. And if you like some of the knowledge that was being shared here, but you just don't know how to start with it, of course, Amy's course is a first-year course that you have options to jump right into. But we have, again, in those learning communities, an opportunity for you to start exploring with other like-minded students. Things like environment in action. We have a core, a robotics learning community. We have an entrepreneurship learning community, and many more. So I just wanted to at least put that teaser out there for you to think about these starting points at Binghamton and how they blossom into some other fabulous programs as you go throughout. Carrie, anything you want to close with and our upcoming programs, chat hours?
Yeah, we do have chat hours from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday with our counselors. So we'll be on tomorrow, next week. We're still answering phones, and we love hearing from students, whether it's our prospective students and they want to ask questions about Binghamton. We want to engage with you. We know that we're in a virtual world right now. Also, feel free to check out our website. If you go to binghamton.edu, you go to the bottom, you click on visit, and we've got a bunch of different tabs where you can see our general sessions and some general information about Binghamton. You can see all of the faculty who have joined us for our faculty sessions. You can see these specialty sessions like the one we're doing today, and you can watch them back after they've been recorded. And so we hope we're giving our students some, a taste of what it may be like to be a Binghamton student, whether it's, upcoming this fall or sometime in the future. We still want to get you excited about it, even though you can't be here on campus. And I think sharing what we can as, our faculty members are willing to share, and, grabbing the people that we have who are coming and willing to work with us on these sessions has just been really wonderful, and I hope our students are appreciating it as well. And I just really want to thank Amy and James for coming on. It's really great to get that firsthand experience from you guys.
Yes, thank you both. Congratulations to all those students who have gotten their yes and they're deciding. And if you already decided on Binghamton, good choice. Those of you exploring, keep exploring, stay curious, because you see where it pays off in the long run. So we'll see you all again soon. Definitely reach out to us when you have those questions. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Good night.